Have you ever wondered if aliens can exist? Well, my name is Josh, and here at the National Space Centre, I've wondered that very same question. And it turns out we're not alone. I mean, in thinking about the problem, scientists have been trying to answer this question for years and years. Now, in recent years, one of the things they've tried to do is look for exoplanets, planets around other stars where aliens could live and survive. Now, when looking at exoplanets, there's lots of stuff we can measure. The size of the planet, maybe the type of material it's made from, even perhaps what gases it contains in its atmosphere with new telescopes about to launch. But one thing that's really important when it comes to the search for aliens is the planet's temperature. Now, depending on the planet's position from the star, will change its temperature. Planets that are super close to the star are going to be really hot, and this makes it difficult for life to survive. Planets that are too far away from the star are going to be freezing cold, and that also makes it a struggle for life to exist. But planets that are just the right distance from the star, that we get just the right temperature, may contain the resources for life to survive. We call this region the Goldilocks Zone, and planets in this area are our best chance of finding life outside in the universe. Now, the reason for this temperature is because it all depends on chemistry. Life requires lots and lots of chemical reactions going on all the time to give it the energy to move and wave and speak to you guys. Now, we can investigate how temperature affects these reactions using a very simple experiment that I want to share with you guys today. Now, you could try this experiment for yourself at home. You'll just need a few ingredients. Now, we're going to be using some water, and I've got two different sources of water here. This is some cold water that I got from the tap, and I took some of that water and I heated it up in my kettle. I haven't boiled the water, I've just warmed it up. Next, we're going to need some yeast. Now, I've got a pot of yeast here. You use this during baking. It can be found in many shops and supermarkets, and it's actually a living thing. It takes in energy and it turns it into gases. That's what we're going to be looking at here today. Now, for the yeast to do that, it needs some food, and that's in my second container just here. I'm going to use a nice simple food called sugar. So we're using sugar across there. The last thing we're going to need is something to mix all this together in. And over here, I've got some balloons. Now, they look a little bit funny because I've stretched them over the tops of these tubes to make it easier for me to get the ingredients in. If you're doing this at home, you might want to use an adult or a friend to hold your balloon or your other container open so you can test this out. If you don't happen to have balloons around, this works really well with Ziploc bags as well. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to take our balloons and we're going to fill them with our resources. First of all, I'm going to add about a spoonful of yeast. Now, I'm going to be very careful to try and get as much of this into my balloon as possible. This is where that opening comes in super handy. Now, to that, I'm going to add some food for the yeast to eat. So I'm going to add about a spoonful of sugar as well for my yeast to chow down on. There you go, yeast. I'm then going to do the same in our other balloon as well. A spoonful of yeast. And then a spoonful of sugar. Now, the next thing I'm going to add to this is I'm going to add some water. Now, like you, with the balloon stuck in these tubes, there's not much room. So I'm going to first take off the balloon off the top of our tube, give it a little bit more space to spread out, and then I'm going to simply pour the water inside. Let's use blue for cold. Now I'm going to pour quite a bit of water in, and once my balloon is nice and filled up, I'm then going to simply tie the top together. This is going to seal in any gases that my yeast produces. So there's the cold one, and let's do the same with the hot one. So first I'm going to take it off of my container. Then I'm going to add my hot water. And once I've added about the same amount, I'm then going to seal the top of my balloon. I find this tricky. You might need a grown-up to help you. Once they're nice and sealed, I'm going to mix together the sugar, the water and the yeast. And I'm going to do that just by giving them a good shake. Once they're shaken together, the yeast should now start to eat the sugar and turn it into a gas called carbon dioxide. My balloons should trap the gas and hopefully this will cause them to inflate. Now yeast isn't super quick working and so you normally have to leave it a little bit of time. I'm going to leave this about half an hour or so and I'll see you guys later. Hello, I'm back in what was a very short time for you, but a pretty long half an hour for me. And as we can see, well, a bit of a difference. Our cold experiment, well, hasn't done much. It's very much how I left it when we started. Our hot experiment, on the other hand, has definitely grown. It's definitely filled a little bit more gas. Now, the yeast is going to continue producing, and I'm sure if I leave this even longer, it will grow. But already we can see the difference between a cold environment and a hot environment. The reaction is able to take place much quicker, and we see a noticeable change in a shorter amount of time. Our poor old cold yeast not doing much over here. And this is something we find a lot of chemical reactions, especially those involved with life, happen quicker in a warmer environment. And that's really useful. It means that we can survive. Now obviously we don't want them too quick so they use up all the resources without any time for us to live and experience things, but a warm environment, a temperature that's just right is exactly what we need. So I hope that helps on your quest for aliens out in the universe. See you soon.